Good morning.
Morning.
So, who here thinks their working life is as simple as it possibly can be? So maybe we'll just do a show of hands. Okay. I'm going to talk today about the journey that we've been on as GE Capital, because if I go back 2 years ago, and this was an audience of our employees, the response would have been pretty similar. Employees found our business too complex, our customers found our business too complex, and our shareholders also viewed the complexity in our business as potentially impacting our longer-term returns. So, really what I want to do at the start is ground you a little bit in who we are and how we fit into GE, talk about why we simplify and why we've been investing so much of our human capital in the simplification journey, talk about what it is we've simplified over the last number of years, how we go about it and share some of the best practices that we've developed, and then probably most importantly of all, share some of the key learnings that we have discovered over the last 2 years and kind of how we're thinking about this going forward. So, GE, we really like to think that we work on things that matter. And this is at the core of everything we do in all of our businesses, and it's at the core of how we think about simplification. We want our 300,000 employees globally to feel that they work on things that matter. And the way we think about it is the best people and the best technology working to address some of the world's toughest challenges. So we've got 8 business segments. We do everything from aircraft engines to oil and gas to healthcare to lighting, power and water, and of course GE Capital, our financial services arm. So GE Capital International is our financial services business that is domiciled outside of the US. We've got assets of about $122 billion. We have 23,000 employees, 27 different countries in which we're present. And our core business model is factoring, leasing, commercial lending. We have banks, and we have strategic ventures as well. And we really think that we have a global franchise which has domain and scale, which allows us to compete as successfully as we do. So a little bit maybe on why simplification and why simplification is so important to us. This page is a page we use internally, and it's really about the case for change. So, why is it that 2 years ago, Jeff Immelt, our chairman and CEO, stood up on stage at the start of your meeting and, really said to every one of our senior leaders that this was going to be to the forefront of how we run the business over the next number of years. So the first thing is the outside world is becoming incredibly complex. The rate of technological change is incredible. And one of the things we worry about in GE Capital is somewhere there are 2 guys or 2 girls in a garage in California that are working to disrupt our business model. And they don't have the complexity or the legacy that we have. They'll be faster to market, and they will compete with us without having any of the infrastructure cost that we have to deal with. So, technological change. The second piece is the environment's more competitive than it's ever been before. We see more new entrants, companies coming to market faster with product, which really forces us to think differently about how we run our business. Our customers are more demanding. So our customers expect more from us every day. They expect it faster, and they expect the experience of dealing with GE Capital to be as easy as possible. And then finally, our industry is very regulated. That's a trend that's going to continue, and that's something that really changes the way we run the business and will run the business going forward. The second piece is, there was a whole host of internal complexity. And that was really driven by the way we make decisions. So our employees were not empowered to make every decision they were qualified or trained to make. We really needed to push the empowerment curve and encourage people to take more risk in terms of the decisions they were making than they'd ever made before. our org design, our complex processes, and the everyday behaviors of us as managers was also adding to the complexity. And I think, as we think about this and you think about simplification, nobody in this room raised their hand when I asked the question, was your life as simple as possible? Was your working day as simple as possible? That challenge or that response permeates through any organization, and the deeper you go into the organization, the worse, the more challenging it becomes. And then, our employees were very clear in terms of, they really reinforced the need to simplify. And it's back to that idea again of really wanting to work on things that matter. So, for them, it was, how do we eliminate unnecessary work? We have to simplify the processes, okay? Nobody wants to be the 14th approver. Nobody wants to be the 10th checker of something. People want to work on things that matter. We wanted also, as employees, for our customers to feel that we were easy to do business with. And then, this whole idea of new concepts, getting to market faster, having a far more contemporary culture than maybe the one we had 2 years ago. And ultimately, the big call to action for us was the complexity and the bureaucracy was going to hinder the way in which we went to market, and also our ability to seize opportunities that were going to present themselves. So we look at simplification through 3 different lenses. The first one is, for our shareholder. And there are various different measures that our shareholders place on the company. So whether it's reduced cost, whether it's reduced span, whether it's growth and increased volume. And really what they're looking for us to do is make our business as efficient as possible. That's the shareholder ask. For our customer, they want easier channels through which to do business with us. They want products that we can get into the market fast. And they're really saying to us, make it easy for us as customers to do business with GE Capital. And then finally, for our employees, really it's about simplified processes, it's about increased delegation, and it's about making it a better place to work. We developed a framework. One of the things I would share around simplification at the outset is we've tried our best to keep this simple. So it's not about new forums, new committees, introducing kind of new measures, et cetera. So we've really tried to keep it simple. And this framework is how we started to think about it at the outset. So the first thing is, we said there were certain things we just wanted to solve across the company, that we would sponsor as a senior leadership team, take on some of the biggest pain points we faced, whether it was kind of on the structure, whether it was IT, whether it was the culture, and that was on us. So as a leadership team, we were very clear with our employees in terms of what we were going to do and some of the challenges we were going to address. And we referred to that as kind of our enterprise-wide initiatives that we were looking to solve. The second piece was our employees in their day-to-day lives face different pain points, ones that we may, in a lot of cases, not be able to relate to, or in some cases, we're unaware of. So we empowered the employees through kind of making some tools available, and I'll talk about those in a second, and really encouraging and empowering them to own the solution, so to own the outcome. We also started to kind of capture in our various different platforms what some of the local pain points were and put teams to work on those. And then had simplification surgeries right across the business to really drive engagement. A third element of the framework was all around communication. And here it was and is continuous, it's varied, it's current. So as an employee of GE or GE Capital, you cannot miss the fact that the business is being simplified around you. It is everywhere. What we were looking to move from, and the today is back 2 years ago when we started out, we really had an inconsistent definition around what we were solving for. There was mixed levels of engagement, so there were a lot of folks that thought this was just the next great initiative. We had a lot of pain points, but traction was slow because everyone was busy. And then GEOS is our internal employee survey that we do every year. And it was clear from the results we were generating that improvement was needed. We were very clear on what success looked like. And one of the key success factors for us was probably one of the most difficult to measure. And that was really that the place was going to start feeling different. So as an employee, when you came through the door in the morning, the company felt different. It felt less bureaucratic, more contemporary, an easier place in which to get things done. It was an environment in which we'd eliminated those pain points, and really our measure was when employees completed the survey that we do on an annual basis, we were going to see double positive uplifts in the scores. So our employees ultimately were going to be the graders for the exam. In terms of what we simplified, and I'll split this into 3 categories. So for our employees, first one was empowering. So we launched a crowdsourcing website across the 23,000 employees, every language, every platform, that encouraged employees to submit ideas on how we could simplify our business. To date, a year and a half in, we have over 5,000 ideas have been submitted on the tool, 1,300 of which have been executed on. And the great thing about this is it polls employees and gets them to vote on the best ideas. So really the outcomes are being driven by the employees themselves, and it's been hugely popular and something we're looking to take across the wider company. Second example was we just eliminated a whole pile of unnecessary work. So reporting requests, people asking for data, people asking for things that sat elsewhere in the organization. We just stopped all of that. We put a system of gatekeepers in place and really raised the visibility so that anyone who was driving complexity or asking for more, that just wasn't going to fly. And then a third area is, simplifying processes. We had too many processes where there were too many approvers, and we basically empowered fewer people to make decisions. And our procurement process is a good example of this. Excuse me. So typically, we would have had anywhere between 10 and 14 approvers as it went through an automated workflow. The maximum number of approvers today across our business is 3. So really taking layers out in approval processes, empowering employees. We wanted to keep our customers front of mind. So we were very clear that we were going to invest a lot in what we referred to as innovative front-end tools and really digitizing the customer experience and allowing them to self-serve more. And then on the internal processes, we really put the clock on everything. So everything that applies to, customer touch points, we measured, and we measured with a stopwatch. The improvement we drove in this area was phenomenal in that we were able to prove really the linkage between volume and speed. So by having everything on a clock, we went after the pain points that were really slowing the customer experience and drove exponential improvement in volume as a result. In terms of our shareholders, reduced our core SG&A, our cost. Really, we went after the structural simplification elements as well, so made our business simpler to understand from an external point of view, and went after legal entities and a host of other different things. We measured this so we could show kind of the improvement and share the improvements externally. So how we go about this? Very simple. We had the framework. We shared it across the entire employee base. And then we developed an engagement roadmap, which we've evolved continuously over 2 years. And that started with our chairman really mandating every leader in the company to go simplify, and it's built out from there. I've touched on communications. This is something we've really pushed, developed, and enhanced over the last number of years. So, very clear calendar. I would say, we have tried various different forms and really tried to keep it contemporary. So whether it's webinars, whether it's summits, whether it is the website, videos, viral, face-to-face, we've really done it all from a simplification perspective. In terms of our learnings, one thing we've always been clear on is what simplification is and what simplification is not for our business. So as we think about simplification, it is really about running a faster, more efficient business. That's the goal here, faster from a customer point of view, from an employee point of view, and for our shareholders. This is probably one of the biggest drivers of employee and customer satisfaction that exists. in the 2 years we've been doing this, we have never had an employee or a customer complain that we are trying to make the experience easier. Okay, this is a massive driver of employee satisfaction. Sameena's going to talk about the culture. The one thing I will say is, as you do this and as we've done this, it becomes far less about the me and it becomes about the we. Things that we hold sacred, things that are important to us, we've got to sacrifice. We've got to do things for the greater good. You've also got to understand your efficiency drivers. To really drive the improvement that you're targeting, you need to understand what the efficiency levers are and target those. And then we have encouraged employees across the globe to ask the question, why not? So why can't we do something differently? Why does it have to be like that? And that has been phenomenal to see that in action as they challenge, push, prod, poke all the time, getting us as a leadership team to think differently about how we run the business and some of the bureaucracy that existed. This isn't all about cost. We do a lot to kind of reduce the costs in our business, but we talk about that openly as cost reduction. But simplification is not about cost reduction, headcount reduction, et cetera. And I think that's one of the misconceptions that sits out there. We've been very clear it's not another initiative. It's not intuitive. In as much as we've tried to keep it simple, one of the ironies is it can be really hard. And you've got to teach, and you've got to coach, and you've got to lead as you go down this path. We've been very clear. We do not have one committee across our business that meets to talk about simplification. So we've really kind of intertwined it with the DNA and the fabric of our business. And as we talk about it, we really think about the cultural and the structural change we're looking to drive. Simplification takes a ton of effort. And as you look at some of the more complex challenges that exist in your business, they're the ones that are going to take most time and effort. And this is a curve we use a lot with our employees to basically say, when you don't put in the time, you don't put in the effort, you end up with simplistic solutions. And simplistic solutions are workarounds. They're where you don't want to invest in IT or process changes, and you end up with something that can often be more time-consuming and more frustrating. So you've got to push through the curve. You've got to put in the time and effort and the investment to get to truly simple. And some of the big structural changes we're looking to undertake and some of the big IT rollouts that we've been doing over the last number of years have really tested us in that regard to make sure we don't fall into the trap of developing simplistic. So in terms of what's next, a journey we've been on for 2 years. One of the big challenges is how do we keep this current and contemporary, and how do we make sure that we continue to challenge the way in which we work every day? And that's something that is really going to feature as we look at the next generation of this and how that comes to bear across the wider organization. We've been clear in recognizing some of the areas of heavy lifting. So we're probably in that phase where we've done some of the easier things and we're now into the harder things, but we're very open in the way we communicate around that, and we kind of share the progress we're making in that regard. The biggest risk we feel we run is the risk of lost opportunities. So we have employees every day that are generating ideas on how we can run the place differently, how we can run the place in a more straightforward fashion. And we have sleepless nights that we're not getting to the ideas fast enough, we're not changing fast enough, we're not becoming more contemporary fast enough. So, we really see every challenge that exists and every idea that's generated by our employees as an opportunity to make the company better, to make the experience easier from a customer point of view, and to generate better returns for our shareholders. Sameena's going to talk about the new beliefs, and they really kind of dovetail nicely with what we're doing from a simplification perspective. I would say what simplification has done for our company is it has changed what earns you respect. So in the past, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, employees would have earned respect for doing different things. Today, simplification gets you respect. We continue to reward and recognize, so that's been a huge part of this as well. And we badge the folks that kind of come up with the ideas and simplify the business. We call them simplification heroes, and we really promote them right across the business. And that's something we'll continue to do into the future. Finally, the thought I'd leave you with is, in our business, this is the biggest team we have. 23,000 people empowered to drive change, make the business a better business, make it an easier business with which to transact and in which to work. The momentum, the environment, the motivation that spins from this and comes from this is phenomenal. And I would say, 2 years in, our feeling is with 23,000 people focused on this every day, simplification has really become an unstoppable movement in our business. So thank you for your time. With that, I'm going to hand over to Sameena, who's going to talk about the cultural journey we've been on in parallel to this. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Thanks, Barry. Look, the good news is I'm only on for 10 minutes, and we heard yesterday that the average attention span's 12, so no excuses for switching off halfway through this, I guess. So let me start off, and I'm going to be talking here about driving a culture for simplification. And we in HR all know, right, that changing culture is all about changing behavior. And, Barry talked a lot about the things that we can control as a business. So we can change our systems, our processes, IT, layers, spans, you name it, we're trying it, okay? But the hardest thing is actually to change culture and to change behavior. And, we started this journey, as Barry said, 2 years ago. And after 2 years, Jeff Immelt, our chairman and CEO, said to our VP for HR, Susan Peters, what can we do to change the mindset of our people? What can we do to actually make them think about this completely differently and change their behaviors? And basically, this is what we looked at, and this is what I'm going to talk about. 3 areas. The first is our values. The second is a tool that we call FastWorks, kind of a concept. And thirdly, a bit about our performance development process to drive this whole, culture of simplification. So like many of you sitting here, you'll have values in your organization, right? And, in some companies, you go there and you go to reception and you've got the nice plaque on the wall with all your values on, and actually you talk to employees and they haven't got a clue about the values. In GE, values are taken very seriously. We've had values in our organization for decades. We're on a set of values at the minute, which we call the growth values. They've been around for nearly 10 years, and we define our values very clearly so that employees have total clarity on what it is that we expect in terms of the way to behave and respect each other in the business. And that has served us well. So the growth values, which you'll see on the right-hand side of this page, is what we've had in place. What we then did was think, okay, do our values actually help us drive this simplification journey? And we in the HR community looked at our values and, reassessed them. And what we realized was actually we weren't really driving a behavior of simplification in our values. So we not only had to rebrand the values, so now what we call the GE beliefs, and it's how we want, the beliefs that we want people to have in the entire organization as to how our behavior should be. But actually what we did was we completely redefined them. And I'm going to talk about that very quickly. So basically, our first belief, which is customers determine our success. Look, we're all sitting here. We all like to think we're really customer focused, right? But what Jeff wants us to be is obsessed by the customer. By being obsessed, what I'm talking about is the customer's priorities are our priorities. The customer's metrics are our metrics. And not only that, but basically we make it easy, as Barry said, to do business as a company for our customers. And that really requires us to do things completely differently. The second value, which is stay lean to go fast. Okay, you've all heard of the phrase, do more with less. For Jeff, the statement is do less with less. We have less, we've got less resources, we've already simplified, but now we want you to just focus on what's really important. So stop trying to do a million things, just do things that is important to the customer. That's fundamental here. And what it means is, we're a bit of a polite culture in GE. We like to involve everybody. So you've got the functions, the products, the geographies, you've got it. We're all sitting around tables, we're discussing for hours, and actually nobody's really making a decision fast enough because, there's all the politics that goes with it. We've got to cut through all that crap and basically say, okay, how can we get this decision made quickly, fast for the customer? So stop, distracting from that. That's a very different behavior to what we've had in the past. Thirdly, and it's all about learning and adapting to win. So this is all about, and some of you already talked about it, where we've got to take risks. With risk comes failure. And with failure, we've got to get comfortable, not with failure, but to learn from that failure very quickly. In GE, we've got a bit of this culture where we like to talk about our successes. Nobody really wants to talk about what went wrong. Actually, now what we want our leaders to do is start most of their meetings talking about failure. What went wrong? What did I learn from it? And the key thing here is to learn from it very quickly and adapt so we can change what we're doing, again, focusing on simplification. Fourthly, looking at empowering and inspiring each other. You've all got values like that, right? What's different about that? But the thing is, we really, really want our leaders to be not only listening to our customers, but to our employees. Barry already told you, we took their ideas. They aren't our ideas. And not only that, we want our leaders to be humble, not to feel that they know everything already, actually. It's our employees that actually know what they're talking about. And what we want is people to get excited to come to work every day, where we actually get the best performance that we can from our employees. So it's completely about empowering employees to make those decisions that Barry talked about and actually rewarding them for taking action, not for slowing down the process. And lastly, delivering results in an uncertain world. We've got to accept the world is not going to get predictable. It's uncertain. And actually, everybody's got to get comfortable with that level of ambiguity. What that means is that we actually have to start looking at, focusing on not only getting results and getting things done, like we just talked about, but also thinking about what does the customer not know that they need? So it's discovering those things and delivering solutions for the customer. So as you can see, what we've done here is we've completely rethought our values, and we're just about to roll these out. And these aren't things that we came up with, by the way. They were our employee suggestions, and it's through crowdsourcing methods that we got to this. The next thing I want to talk about is a concept. It's kind of a tool. It's something that we learned from our startup companies in the Silicon Valley, who can get products to market out really quick. No messing around like we do sometimes, which is all about taking ages, investing loads of money, and then realizing actually the customer didn't want that in the end anyway. So basically, with FastWorks, what we have developed is all about, it's a concept. And the first thing is, identify what the customer's pain points are. What are they wanting? Once you've grasped that, don't go big on a massive idea that might not work. Actually, what you want to do is start small. Think about a hypothetical solution and come up with a minimum viable product, what we call MVPs, to basically go to market on something really small and then check with the customer whether they like the metric, whether we can deliver their metrics. Is this customer happy with what we're suggesting? And then if they're not, don't waste any more time and money on it. Actually pivot to something else, but if it's working, preserve, go big on the whole concept. And that's really what we're trying to do. But we don't just do fast work with our products and services. We do fast works with any opportunity we have. Let me give you an example, a simple one from an HR standpoint. So if you're sitting there and your line managers, our customers are telling us, you know what guys, you're taking far too long to recruit executives, it's taking about 120 days cycle time. You think, okay, that's a massive pain point for the customer. Right, what can we do about it? Okay, maybe we're using too many agencies to get to this. Okay, right, let's try and look at seeing whether we can minimize just 1 or 2 agencies. Let's try it out. Let's try it with our next executive recruitment. And does that reduce it? Oh, it's got it down to 80 days. That's a good start. Right, we're going to pilot it. Try that concept with a load of executives in this particular area. Oh, what are the metrics showing us? Should we pivot, try something different if it's not working? Oh, wow, it is working. Let's go with that. And it's different to just going and spending years as the HR team coming up with this great new recruitment strategy that actually line managers think are a complete waste of time. So it's all about that. Finally, I want to talk about, this culture to deliver the kind of behaviors we're talking about, where feedback and coaching is critical. And here, all of us, I know in GE, we've had our performance appraisal system back in the 1970s, okay? So, and we've always been looking at not just performance, but also our values that we measure, right? And it's been a once-a-year process, mid-year review, quite formal, ratings focus. Everybody suddenly becomes obsessed by, oh my God, what was my rating versus what was the development actions again? And actually, we need to rethink that, where feedback and coaching become so critical. Our young generation don't want feedback once or twice a year. They want it every 2 minutes, actually. And so what can we do to get rid of that performance culture, which is not about performance management, but performance development? And how can we make sure feedback is regular, it's constant, it's 360, that people are providing input and touch points where the managers can give input all the time? Don't let our managers, believe that they're doing feedback already all the time, because let's be honest, we're not really. So that's about changing a whole of our performance development process. So really, we've talked about 3 things, right? We've talked about the values, we've talked about FastWorks as a concept, and we've talked about our performance development process. And I've tried to do a whistle-stop stir. Last point I want to make. So what can we do? From an HR standpoint, what would I say? Because, that's all very well for GE, but what can you take away and ask those questions? The first is, HR has to be at the forefront of any cultural change. We have spent so much time with our business leaders because we know this is a key strategy and we've got to help, make that strategy happen with the cultural change. So that's critical. So ask yourself when you're driving that kind of change, are we there? Secondly, it's self-assessment. HR as a function has got a reputation of coming out with these processes that are so non-value adding that line managers say, who designed this? It was the HR team. Can't believe it. And so ask yourself, are we really, really helping simplify the organization? Stop doing things that are nice HR things, but actually do nothing for the customer. And then lastly, HR as a role model. Are we role models of simplification? Do we act with urgency? Do we get stuff done really quick? Or are we kind of a bit of an exception? That's for the sales guys. So that's really what I'm asking. We need to be self-critical if we want to also deliver simplification and drive that culture. And with that, thanks very much. I don't know if you've got questions, but if you have.
If you don't mind, are you guys going to be around for the whole break?
No, I'm just actually getting my water.
We're really not. We're actually building across the road and we've got a call coming soon. So
oh, really?
Guys, yeah. Okay.
All
so
right.
we can do a few questions.
Well, I think we do maybe 2 very quick questions, if that's okay,
Yeah.
just in terms of keeping the whole thing on schedule. But please, so take one from the back.
Hello, hi. Thanks very much for that. It was great, very insightful. I just wanted to ask a sort of a practical question. You talked about the cloud sourcing, which I thought was really interesting. How did you talked about investing a little bit in order to do this, but who ran that for you? What part of the organisation kind of owned that cloud sourcing? I mean, was it HR, was it the business, was it marketing, or was it communications?
Basically, we do have, obviously our IT team helped to actually set up the process. HR, we've got communications involved, we've got a number of functions involved in that, and the whole idea is for our employees to feel they can give ideas and we can learn from that. So we have got a number of functions involved in that process of crowdsourcing. It isn't something that HR sits up, and I don't know, Barry, if you want to add to that.
It was developed in-house. A lot of the companies we spent time with in Silicon Valley use this as a way to generate kind of really innovation, right? So they crowdsource globally. We created something very simple, rolled it out, and then, as kind of the simplification's on everyone, but the tool itself is run within the operations function in our business. So, they manage, but then each of the local businesses are responsible for executing on the ideas and kind of taking them. So we make it local to make sure that, it's empowered and it's not HQ kind of driving things out into the platforms.
Thanks very much.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, I'm sure there may well be some further LinkedIn requests coming in your direction soon with questions and so on. But thank you. Thank you very much.